On today's episode of RC Kicks, we are pimping my Traxxas TRX4. Stay tuned because we've got lots of sexy brass, a new body, and I'm even going to tamarize it a little bit. Recognize these? Recognize that? Stay tuned to find out more. Hi and welcome to RC Kicks. Well, on today's show I thought we'd better show some love to my hard working, behind the scenes Traxxas TRX4. Now it's currently set up for mud plugging. I've done a few modifications to it already from stock. There's a couple of videos I can put up here, go check those out if you're interested. But it's now sitting on massive great big mud plugging tyres. The body has basically just had loads of stickers put all over it. The only modification I've done to the body is I removed all the paint from the windows to do clear windows. From the inside though, I've actually done a reasonable amount so far. Let's just move these out of the way. So one of the downsides to the Sport by Traxxas is it's obviously a very cut down version, but it has pros and cons. The pros are you get lock diffs and things like that, the price is lower, and it's very capable as a crawler, rock crawler. But it misses things like the arches. Now when you're mud plugging and things like that, all the dirt and everything just flies up inside. So I've done the two modifications that you have to do to put arches on. You have to have the inner harder section, and then you have to get to the outer section, which is soft rubber, and that kind of seals the body and stops half of the oomph getting inside of it. Another thing I've did is I've taken this to the beach a few times, so all the screws rusted instantly, so it's now got a full stainless steel screw set on it. That took hours, but it was well worth doing. The only other things I've done to it is it has metal sliders and a metal front bumper, and I've modified the rear bumper by swapping it around the other way to get it higher. But apart from that, the only other thing I did, I put a couple of little skid plates on it, and I've just put two little brass front sections to add a little bit of weight. But today, what are we doing today? Well, we are going to really bling it out. Treal, today's episode is sponsored by Treal. Massive thank you to them for sending me these. Now I'll cut to a montage of these because you've got to see just how nice the quality of these are. And they've sent me a whole range so that I can put different weights at the front and the rear, which is why I have this. So we're going to play around with this again today to see if I can balance it up 60-40, 60 at the front, 40 at the rear. I have no idea how it is currently set up, so it'll be interesting to see whether my little brass that I fitted at the front has made any difference. And then once we fit all the sexy Treal bits, we'll see what kind of weight distribution we've got. So we'll cut to the montage and you can see all these sexy bits, and then we'll come back and then we will take the wheels off and start fitting the parts. Also, I'm going to remove my mud plugging wheels and I'm going back to my Traxxas wheels, which are much better for rock crawling. Mainly from side hilling and stuff like that, because these are just so soft. I have put bead locks in them, so they have got metal bead locks in them already. So we've got to do that as well. Now for the body, something a little bit different from that point of view. We are going to paint up this spare body that I had, and my whole master plan from the beginning is I want to paint this white. I have contacted MCI Decals and I got some decals blown up slightly larger so that we can make this look like a Tamiya. Sacrilege, I know, but I really want to do that. So we're going to put these stickers, but I also have the standard ones, so we're going to mix and match the two together and hopefully I can make it look good. So that's the plan for this episode, so stay tuned. So there's lots of different sections to come on this video. Right, before we fit the Treal parts, very sexy. Before we fit those, we need to weigh the car as it is and see what kind of balance it has now. Sorry about this, but I wanted to record the actual data while we actually film this, because if I go back and I do it afterwards, it might be fractionally off, and if I mention the numbers, they won't look right. So let me just press record on that. Okay, so we're going to place the truck. Start this, let it zero out, then without hitting the camera, try and place this on the pads. How's the one at the back? That's not too bad. So let me just go round, because I've got the front pads not quite right. Let's put that there like that. And this one is a bit more like that. Okay, so we're good to go. So all I want to do now is pick it up and put it down. So lift it up and put it down. Let it settle. So it's currently giving us 51 to 49, and it's basically saying front to back 56 to 44. Really ideally we're looking for 60-40 and 50-50. So it's not that far off, it's actually quite close. So we can put a bit more weight up front and a little bit at the back, which is great because that's kind of the parts that I've got. So we can move things around a little bit. Right, now we've got that data, we'll lock that in and we'll remember it, and then we'll come back later on. So let me just clear up this mess. Good, that gets rid of all that junk. Right, another thing we're doing is obviously the body, like I mentioned before, but as you can see, it doesn't fit anymore. Now the reason is that is because the front bumper and the rear bumper have been modified, and on the body that I have here, I have trimmed things out to make things fit. So we need to do that again because I want to keep the bumpers as they are because they're much higher out the way, so it gives me a much better approach and departure angle, and I don't want to change them back. Now this body was fully cut out, and even the holes for the body posts are all done for you, and then just trimming off the front there. So let me do that first just to make sure it fits, because after that we've got to give it a good wash, good clean. I'm going to scrub it with a used green scourer to really get the paint to bite, and then I've got to mask off the windows, but I don't have any window masks, so I'm going to have to make them. Right, let's cut the body out and get it fitting properly before we move on to the next one. Oh, I'm looking forward to fitting these. Oh, very sexy. Right, okay, let's carry on. Right, so I've made the body fit, just had to do the modifications at the front and the rear. The rear is the easier of the two, but you have to use the score and snap technique for sure to get a nice straight line. But having that I had my previous body, I could just go off the back because the back was perfect. The front I had cut previously, but I knew that there was a little extra I could leave in here. So what I did on the front was I went by the sides like it fitted on the original body, but then I tried to keep the middle section, which is obviously a lot more difficult, but so I've actually kept it. So it does look better than the original one that I modified. So I'm really happy with that. This bumper is a little bit damaged, so I will replace it, but I will get exactly the same one because I'm really happy with it. But it takes a hell of a battering, but it's all metal and everything like that. So the body now fits lovely, and it sits super tight in the rubber arches to keep the muck and the mud out. Well, a little bit. There's still a lot of gaps underneath. Later date, I probably want to get the battery modification where you can lower the battery to improve the center of gravity. So what's next? Now I'm going to give it a good clean, going to scrub it down a little bit, then we're going to mask up the windows, fit the windows, and then it'll be ready to paint. It's just going to be white, so nice and easy. I might throw in a bit of pearl just to make it a little bit more upbeat than just flat white. I haven't decided yet, we'll figure that out. Now these wheels obviously aren't going to stay, so they've got to come off. So while I do that, then we'll come back and then I'll spray it, and then while that's drying, we will try to fit the Treal parts. Right, so let's go off, give it a wash, and make up the masks. So there you go, the window masks are made and fitted. I have got a bit of margin to play with because the decals have edging around them, but if you don't have any edging, obviously you've got to put more attention into it, but it's a pretty easy technique and it works really well. One thing I would recommend if you're doing this is when you put a couple of layers on, to give you the area you need, put a few extra support parts in, because when you go to peel it off, if you just have two bits together, they will separate. So if you add a couple more, it builds up the rigidity, so when you pull it off, it stays as one massive sticker. Right, all I've got left to do now is put on the white. So I'll warm up some white paint, and it's nice and sunny today. It's cold but sunny here in the UK, so that's great. While that's drying and I'm doing each coat, we'll then turn our attentions to fitting the Treal parts. So wish me luck. There's good news and there's bad news. Do you want the good news or the bad news? I'll give you the good news. The good news is the body is coming along really well. It's had 3 coats of white. I even went to the trouble of masking off the bed, because once I went and looked at the body that's designed by Tamiya for the Monster Racer, it had a black bed, so I've done that as well. I put the effort in to make that look the same. So the body is coming along perfect. Now for the bad news. Well, the bad news is this. As I was stripping down my Traxxas TRX-4 to fit the lovely Treal bits and pieces, turns out I may have abused it a little bit more than I thought. What do I mean by that? Well, I took it to the seaside, so that's salt water. Yeah, I changed all the bolts, but I didn't really anticipate it getting right into the axles. Then I've taken it in some streams and rivers over the last year. So as you can imagine, as I was pulling it apart, it turns out most of the bearings are completely locked, shot, rusted away. The worst one is this one that I've cleaned up. This is the one that the actual axle fits through, and that is completely locked, and the only rotation that I get there is basically metal on metal. And if you look at the bearing, you can see it's actually worn away part of this and part of that. I tried to free it up and put it into some cleaning fluid and oil and everything, but it's pretty much totally locked. So that kind of leaves me with one major issue, and there's 4 bearings in each. Some of them rotate and some don't. They're all rusty. So to strip the whole car down to fit all these Treal parts takes quite a bit of effort. It's quite a lot of work to get in there and to do them all. So there is no point me putting them all back together again with seized bearings that I just really are going to have to take the whole thing apart again to fit bearings. So you can see where this is going, that I've ordered the whole set of bearings for this car and it's obviously coming. So the rest of this video, I can't really fit these, and I'm just going to stop where I am right now with fitting the Treal parts. So this is going to be a 2-part video. So we're going to finish up the body now, and then I'll do the decals and get all that side done. And then in the next episode, when I get the bearings, we can carry on stripping down and fitting all these parts. Because if you look at how bad they are, the idea of sticking this kind of stuff back into brand new brass parts like this would be criminal just for a video. So I'm not going to do it. So I'm ever so sorry. So it's a 2-part video. I've cleaned the car basically. I am now umming and ahhing about whether I should open up the axles, because I'm a bit worried about what's going on in here. So maybe that's what we'll do, is we'll open the axles up and see just how bad they are. Now I bought a full set of bearings, so if there is bearings in here I can change them anyway. So I'm thinking it's probably worth doing, being that I'm not sure what the rest are like, but that front one is really bad. Oh, it's my own fault, I suppose. I mean, you do get locked diffs in the Sport, and that doesn't feel too bad. But whether that's just metal on metal, I honestly don't know. So I fitted the original wheels and tyres back on, so you can see how much smaller they are versus my massive mud plug-in ones. Now, in the future, what I plan on doing is I use this marine white grease. So what I plan to do, because I will drive this on the beach again and I will drive it in the rivers, and is I will pack out all these parts with marine grease, which I didn't have. And I haven't actually got into the gearboxes or anything like that. That's as deep as I've ever got, is to change the front hub to brass. I didn't actually get all the way inside like I did when I was changing out this part. So yeah, the plan is change all the bearings, pack it all with marine grease. Marine grease is brilliant because obviously it's waterproof and it expels water. So if I pack it in there, water can't get in and do what it's done to it now. So that's my master plan. If you are a crawler person that's had this experience and you do a lot of work with these, comment below. Do you think this is a good idea to do this, or is there a better idea to try and keep the water out? Comment below, because I basically bash and crawl this, but I don't do it as a full-blown hobby into this. It's just fun going on the trails and driving in the rivers, and when we go on holiday I usually take this. Right, let's carry on with the body, and sorry about that. And Treal, there will be another video with your beautiful parts because they are very sexy. Right, let's carry on. Okay, so this video continues to be really good. Yeah, I've made a little bit of a mistake, but don't say I don't show you everything on the channel when it goes well and when it doesn't. So the genius thing that my idea was to paint up this body in white. I've just backed it in silver, so we're getting close, and now I've got to remove that area there. Now, can any of you guess what the problem is? And the problem is this, that my idea is to basically replicate the Tamiya Monster Racer, because obviously it's a truck bed style, so it's very close to that. Yeah, there's one small problem with that. I was cutting out the decals and I thought, oh, you stick the decals on, you just spray it white and that's it. Yeah, no, I didn't even bother to go and look at the spray in the manual of what you do. And looking at the pictures, it looks like what you're supposed to do is paint the rear arches and this bit round here in red, because I've started cutting out the decals, and you get to these ones and I'm like, well, where's the red bit? And it turns out what you're supposed to do is that goes on there somehow, slants like that. This one goes like that. And then what you're supposed to do is paint everything else red. So of course I haven't done that, and I'm not going to get my polycarbonate out and remove all that. So I'm leaving it white. So I'm now in the process of thinking, shall I even bother with these? I'm not sure, or whether I'll just do some mishmash of my own idea of what I'm going to do with this. And that's probably where I'm going to go. I'm just going to ad-lib. I've got a whole box of decals. So let's see what I can come up with, and can I save it? So what's next? Well, I've just backed it in silver. I'm just waiting for that to dry a little bit. Then I'm going to peel out the track bed, and then we're going to paint the track bed in. I was going to do it in black, but now I'm thinking, should I try and do it a colour that matches in with the decals that I'm going to do? So my plan now is, while this is drying, rummage through my decal box, see if I can put a theme together, and then I'll see whether I'll paint that a colour that matches, or whether it's just going to be plain black. Nothing like winging it, and just to show you that it doesn't always go exactly to plan. Right, let's carry on. Jesus. Right, okay, the body is dry. I left it overnight. This is another day for me, even though it's instantaneous for you. And this is how it came out. So I backed it in silver. So when you paint white, back it in silver. Also, you can back red in silver as well. I was going to put white on it before I backed it in silver, but the silver works just as well. Now, the only thing I've got left to do is smoke the windows, but that's easy enough to do. That's always the last thing anyway. So I don't know if a few of you remember, but quite a while ago, I actually did this car. Now this is a Camtech car that comes with no decals. So I actually made these decals out of bits and pieces that I had. So I thought now would be a good opportunity for me to maybe focus a bit more on this, because quite a few people contacted me going, Gav, can you explain how you make decals from scratch? I mean, how you just come up with this kind of thing. So I thought it would be a good idea to show you my kind of process, because that's kind of where I've gone with this. I had an original plan and I've changed my mind, and now I'm thinking I'm basically going to just use all my decals that I've got in my decal bin to try and put something together kind of organic. So to show you the walkthrough of how I actually achieve it. Now this is how do I say this? It's work in progress as you go, and you have a theme and you think about it, and then you kind of slowly progress, and things you don't like, things you like, then you keep, and then you stuff like that. So the first thing I do is, when I painted this red, was a color scheme idea. So I looked through all my decals that I've got in my decal bin, and the idea, which is why I painted this bit red, was these. Now these are Audi decals that I had left over that I was going to use on my Audi down there. So I'm thinking these colors work quite well with what we've got. So we've got the red already and it's pretty close. Then we've got black and silver just to give it a bit more detail. Then I thought, well, I've got the same red there, but then maybe I could do a bit of blue and red. So that's a possibility. I've got these Treal stickers, which are red and white, again, which will fit in quite nicely. So I'm kind of thinking using some of those. Then I've obviously got the decals that belong with the body as well. Then I found some King Cab decals, which are kind of white and black. And the netting is a bit bigger, so it should fit in the windows quite well, as well as some lights and stuff like that. I might be able to use some of the trim parts from here. I've got some generic kind of decals as well. Then I kind of quite like these stripes, so I thought about it. So the plan is for me to just slowly unfold this, and then those Audi ones as well. So I thought we will just do it together and just go through it in step by step and my thinking. So the first tip that I've kind of just found on my own is, if you want to you've got to make the decals look like they belong on the car. And another trick that I found is that to do that, you layer your decals. So for instance, I made this grey line, and then I've put this text over the top, and then I've added another layer of text over here, and then it's the same for this as well. I cut this bit out and then I've added, so you put decals on top of decals. This is still not finished. I still want to find something to go in here. And then you kind of check to see what it looks like, if it works. If it doesn't work, then you remove it if it doesn't. So that's the plan, really. Also, I've got the original bits I was going to use, so that kind of works there, and so does that, really. But then I might lose those colors at the front. So we'll basically just go through it slowly, and I'll record it, and then I'll cut to bits when I'm talking about it, because I can't really explain it now because I haven't gone down the road of doing it. So what my mistakes are and what my ideas and what I liked. Right, let's try this. This is a bit new and I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll give it a go anyway. Okay, so the first thing that went through my head was obviously to get the color scheme right. So I tried to match up the red with the red bed. Now I wanted to have a line that goes down the car if possible, but that's quite difficult because you don't have the exact line in decals, so you have to make them. What I found works is you can actually use masking tape to create a template that you can then cut out of a bigger decal, and then you can fill in areas. That way you're kind of making the decal as if it was made to fit that particular body. Another thing that you can do is, if you have windows that have tint in the middle of them, if you etch around it, you can actually remove the tint and leave the actual surround of the window in place. I prefer that look so that I can smoke the windows from inside but keep the rubbers of the windows. Another thing that I did was I wanted to have a black line going around the arches and along the bottom. I didn't have the bottom section, but the decals that I had was a black section that goes around the bed. Because it was long enough, I could repurpose it and use it to give me a black edge along the bottom, so I could then put white decals on it from different manufacturers, as you can see there. I did like to use the red front section that I had from a decal sheet, as the top of the decal followed the line of the hood really well, but it wasn't long enough. So I cut off the other colours, and then I found some other red decals that kind of matched and gave me the bonnet line. So I fitted those, knowing that I would go over the top of the actual join. Then I found a blue bit of decal that had a bit cut out of it in a circle. Then I had some old racing numbers, so I thought that was about the same sort of shape. So I thought I'd actually fit that. In the video, it looks like I've stuck the racing stickers on afterwards, but on the body, they're actually inside the decal. So they look better in real life than they do actually in the video. Then I wanted to put a bit of blue color into the roof to kind of match the bonnet to the roof and to the sides, because you want to balance out the colors. What I found now is I used another sticker to give me the circumference that I needed to cut around the blue decal, because I wanted to set it back slightly. So it's all about layering up your decals and also cutting them so they look like they belong there. Now, as you can see, I've got one mistake on the top of the red line by the window, which I've actually covered at the moment. I will go back and replace that later on. Then it's about balancing the colours out on each side. I'm trying different decals in different positions to see what works with the eye. So you don't just stick them on, you move them around the body as you go until you find places where they just look good. You just know when you've got them in the right place, and then eventually you layer it all up and it all starts to come together. Now this is a kind of early version, and I will go back in a couple of days, look at the body again, and then see if there's anything I want to remove or replace. Well, there you go. What do you think? Comment below. Any good? Don't like it? Wouldn't mind giving it a go yourself? I honestly don't know. It kind of comes together okay, and it's very different, obviously, because they're kind of unique. I'm getting a little bit better at it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being over picky. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's just total trash. I don't know. But there we go. And it's kind of nice to make it into a bit of a Treal body, being that they sponsored the video. So a massive shout out to them, and there will be a second video once the bearings arrive that I can carry on and put all those extra lovely parts in the car. But until the bearings arrive, I can't really do much more. Anyway, a massive thanks very much for watching, and if you'd like to support the channel, head over to RCKicks Patreon page, where I'm constantly posting lots of behind the scenes content before it comes to you. See you soon. Bye bye. Check out one of these videos for some more RC fun.